Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. Today in this video we are going to cover a new topic like how to create a full stack development step by step using reactjs, Spring Boot and MariaDB. So in this video we are going to create a full stack application using reactjs as a front end, Spring Boot as a backend and MariaDB as a database. These are some prerequisites which we are going to use to create our full stack application. So in that, like as an editor, we are going to use VS Code and Spring Tool Suite. For front end side, we are going to use the React 18 plus version, React Table Library as in 7 plus, and Axios as 1.7.2. And on the backend side, we are going to use Spring Boot version 3 plus and Java version 17 plus. And as an database, we are going to use MariaDB. And there are some other tools like SQL, which is an user interface for creating database and tables on the MariaDB database. Next thing, like we are going to use the Postman to test our REST APIs and verify the result and response. This is about the prerequisites which we are going to use. Next thing, like we are going to follow some steps in sequence to create this full stack application. So first we'll see the architecture diagram. Next we are going to see the user interface demo, in which I will showcase you the small demo. With that you can visualize how our application will look like once we build and run into the browser. Next thing, like we are going to create our database and table in MariaDB. Next we are going to create our backend application using Spring Boot. In that I'm going to create a Spring Boot application first. Next we are going to configure the MariaDB database in that. Next we are going to implement CRUD operations, and finally we are going to test our CRUD APIs using Postman. Next we are going to create our front-end application using reactjs, and in that we are going to create our front-end application first using reactjs. Next we are going to create a table using React Table Library, and next we are going to create some integration functions with which we are going to interact with the backend REST APIs and get data or store data into the database. Finally we are going to test our application's functionality end-to-end through UI browser and verify the request and response data, and render the data in the browser and verify the data in the database side as well. So this is about the steps which we are going to follow in sequence. So this is the architecture diagram in which we are going to create a complete profile system, and in that, like on the front end side, we are going to create our profile web front end application using reactjs, and in that we are going to use React Table Library. In that, like in this React Table Library, we are going to use functions and hooks available in that, and we are going to populate the data and table in and with the help of the functions and hooks available in this React Table Library, we are going to implement some core functionalities like searching, sorting, and pagination on the front end side. Next, like we are going to use Axios library in order to give a call to the REST APIs which we have written on the backend side, and we can get data and store data using this Axios library. This is about the front end side. Next, on the backend side, we are going to create our profile service using Spring Boot, and in that we are going to implement all the CRUD operations using REST API. Next, like we are going to use MariaDB as the database on the backend side, and we are going to use SQL user interface to create database and tables for the MariaDB. So this is about the overall architecture which we are going to cover in this video. So I will request you to please watch this video from start to end, because we are going to cover a lot many functionalities. So I want you to so if you don't want to miss anything in between, so please watch this so that you will replicate or implement the similar kind of full stack application by your own. So before we jump into the actual implementation of this one, I will request you to please go through my channel, visit my channel, and watch my other full stack application or full stack development related videos, because I have covered a lot many scenarios like with the combination of reactjs with Spring Boot, as well as full stack applications using reactjs plus node.js, these kind of combinations. And on the database side, I have covered MariaDB, MySQL, PostgreSQL, H2 database. So these are, and MongoDB as well. So these are all various combinations, and there are number of full stack applications. So I will request you to please visit my channel, which is Code for Tech Solutions, and uh, see or watch the respective full stack application which you want to implement or cover. Fine, so without any further ado, so let us jump into actual implementation part. So first we will see, I will showcase you the user interface demo so that you can visualize how it will look like. So this is how our interface will look like once we build our application and run into the browser. So herein, like, this is the add and edit panel, wherein it will allow us to add a profile or edit profile. So let's say we can add the new entry. It's a Suman as a name. Technology we can say Java, and rank we can mention like it's an 11. Rank means the profile will get up or down on basis of what is the rank. That kind of logic we are going to implement. So here once we click on add button, the record will get added into the tables. So you can see the record is added as a last entry. So if you see, now next thing, like, we can edit the record, any record we want. Like let's say this is this entry we can edit for Mohan. Now instead of Mohan, if we want to change it to Mac, and we can simply update. Now we can see the record is updated for this profile ID. So the with this, like, our updation will work. Next thing, like, if you want to delete any record which we want, like let's say if you want to delete this record, we can simply click on delete button. It will show us the confirmation box. We need to click on OK, and we can see that record is deleted from the database. Fine. So this is about all the CRUD functionality which we are going to implement. Next thing, like, we have we are going to implement this search filter in which we can enter any text. Accordingly the data will get filtered out. Let's say it's for Shivaji, yes, for Mac, fine, and some rank related scenarios it will show, fine. Let's say 101, yes. So it is this filter is applicable to all the data columns and data fields, for all the data columns or the data in the table. Next thing, like, we are going to implement the sorting functionalities, and which is applicable to all the columns. Like this, you can see the profile ID column is getting sorted in ascending or descending order. Next, like for name also, technology also, and rank as well. Fine. So this is about the sorting part which we are going to implement. And finally we are going to implement the pagination part, in which you can see we have these 4 buttons. First, previous, this is the page index of page count, and this is the next button, and this is the last button. At present we are on the first page, hence the first and previous button is disabled, which is as expected because we do not have any previous page to show. And once we click on next button, it will take us to the next page, and the page size by default is 10 records per page, but right now we have set it to the 5 so that we can see it running with lesser number of records. And once we click on next button, it will take us to the next page. Similarly, once we reach the last page, the next and last button will get disabled because we do not have any further page to show. Similar way, the previous button will work. It will take us to the previous page, and you can see these buttons are disabled because we are on the first page. If we click on the last page, it will take us to the last page, and if we click on the first button, it will take us to the first page. So this is about the pagination. All these functionalities we are going to implement from scratch. So So without any further ado, so let us jump into the coding part. First of all, we can create our database and tables using this heady SQL interface. So once if you have not installed MariaDB on your system, I have also covered that in one of my videos. So how to install the MariaDB, so you can please go through that and install it. So once you install it, this heady SQL interface will get installed with the installation of the MariaDB database, and you need to open this and enter the user and password. Fine. So the interface will look like this one. So here this session, like you need to create the database. You can right click on this session and there is an option like create new database. You can click on that and we can create our database with name profile underscore system, and we can click on OK. You can see this database, new database is created. Now we can right click on this database and there is a create new table option. We can create table with name profile, and here this is the plus button add. We can click on that to add the column. Let's say we can add profile ID column, and which is a int, and this is the default. Here we can make it an auto increment and click on OK. And the profile ID we need to create as a primary index. Fine. Now next thing, we can click on add button to add one more record, like one more column with name, let's say name, and this should be varchar. We can add one more column with name, like we can check what is the technology. It's in technology. And we can add one more column for rank. Fine. And we can simply click on save button so that the table will get created. You can see we have created profile underscore system as a database, and inside that we have created profile table, and these are some different fields with different data types like profile ID, name, technology, and rank. So with this we are done with our database creation and table creation on the MariaDB side. So now let us create our backend application using Spring Boot. So let me close the existing applications. So here you can open your Spring Tool suite and give path to your actual project folder, workspace. You need to mention it here. So you can click on this third option, which is create new Spring startup project. You need to give the name to your project, like let's say it's a profile related, which is profile hyphen service. Type we can select as a Maven, packaging as a jar, version Java 17, and for group we can mention it's com.profile. Artifact profile hyphen service we can keep as is, and for description we can mention it's an profile service, and for package we can mention com.profile. You can verify it once and click on next button. Here we need to add our dependency. First we can add Spring Web. Next we can add JPA, Spring Data JPA. Next we can add MariaDB driver. Next we can add Lombac. That's it. These are the dependencies we require to create this application. Now the project will get created with default folder and files. If we go into the form.xml file, we can see all the dependencies added as expected. Fine. Now let us run this program. First we can build it using run as maven install. So the build is failure because there is some test failure. So for now we can comment out text part, test. Now let us rebuild it using command maven install. Yes, now build is success. Now let us run it using command run as Spring Boot option. Now there is some error. Application failed to start because it is trying to access to H2 database. By default, our application will try to connect with the H2 database, but because we have not mentioned any database related properties, so in form file we have added our uh, MariaDB. You can see this dependency, MariaDB dependency, and it is trying to connect with the H2 database, and there is no H2 dependency, hence it is giving this error. So now what we can do, we can add the properties for this MariaDB, and this error will get removed out. First we can change our, now this is like here we are going to configure our MariaDB database attributes in Spring Boot. So here first of all we can add our port number, which is by default it is 8080. Now let us make it 8085, and here we can add our Spring related attributes like spring.data source URL, and here we can mention it's MariaDB. So here it should be JDBC MariaDB, and here localhost, and here we can mention our port number. By default it's a 3306, but I have changed it to 3308, so we can use the same port number. So while installing the MariaDB, what port you have set, that you need to enter it here. Next thing, we can enter our database name, which is profile_master. We need to enter the username as well. What username you have given, same you need to enter it here. You need to enter the password as well. Next we can add driver, and here we can mention the MariaDB driver. Next we can add spring.jpa.showSQL as in true. With this we can see the executed queries in console. Next we can use spring.jpa.hibernate.ddlato as an update. Fine. So with this, like, we are done with our database configuration part for MariaDB database in Spring Boot application. So now let us build it and run it again to check if that error is resolved. Make sure you have saved this. Yes, we can see it's a build success. Now let us run it using run as Spring Boot application. Okay, so here it is showing some error. So dialect part, let us check. So here there is a small mistake. It is a double equal to. So we need to remove this one equal. Fine. Now let us cross check it once. Now let us run using run as Spring Boot. So let us add the dialect part. Okay, instead of that we can use this driver class name itself is enough. Now we can say it's a driver class name. Fine, let us check. We can build it. Build success. Now we can run it. Unknown database profile underscore master. Oh, profile underscore system. So actually the database name is wrong. So profile underscore system and master. Here is a master. there we have mentioned the system. So what we can do, let us make it system to be in sync, because here you can see it's a profile underscore system, and same we need to mention. Fine. Now let us check. Here run as Spring Boot application. So we can see it has started successfully on 8085 port. So fine. Now our configuration has successfully added into the Spring Boot. Now next thing, like, we can create our CRUD functionalities. So for that, like, we can create the respective packages first. Like, first we need entity package. Next we need a repository package. Next we can create service package, and finally we can create our controller package. Fine. So we have created all the respective packages. Now let us add the respective components or classes and interfaces in that. First we can add profile. We can create a profile class, and we can add respective annotations. All our constructors. At the rate data, at the rate builder, and at the rate table we can add, and here we can mention the name of the table as an, in our case it's a profile. Now let us add the actual properties. First is it's a long profile ID. Next is name, and we can add two more properties, like one is for technology and next is for rank. Fine, we can save it. Now here we need to add the ID annotation. Next generated value, and here we can add strategy, which is a generation type auto. Next thing, we can add column annotation as well. Similar way, we can add column for name, for technology, and we can add for a rank as well. Fine, we can save it. We are done with our entity creation, and we have created with name profile. Now let us create our repository. So here it's an interface, and we can name it like profile repository. Fine, we can annotate it using the repository. and it implements, so it should extend, it's an interface, it should extend CRUD repository, and here is our entity which is profile, and the data type of our primary key which is a long. And we can add the import, and with this we are done with our repository creation. Next thing, we can create our service interface first, which is a profile service, and here we can mention all the methods which we are going to implement. Next we can add get profile by ID, and here we can pass ID. Next we can pass create profile. This is the method which will create profile. Next we can add for modify profile, and this is the input profile which will get modified. Next is for delete profile. Fine. With this we are done with all the required methods. Now let us create our implementer class. With name profile service IMPL, and here we can annotate it using service stereotype, and this class should implement our profile service interface. Now we can add unimplemented methods for this class. Fine. Here we can inject our repository, which is a profile repository, into our service object. Fine. Now let us provide the actual implementation for all these default methods. Now here we can say it's a return find all. That's it. We can cast it to list. Fine. Next thing, we can return find by ID, and here we need to pass the long ID, and it is returning the optional. Instead we need the actual object. We can call the get to get the actual object. So next thing, like we can call save method, and here we can pass the input object which need to be saved. Similar way, we can call the save method for modifying the modified object, updating the modified object. Next thing, like here, so here for modification, so before we modify the object, first we can retrieve the object from the database. For modify method, we need to pass the actual modified object as well as the ID against which, profile ID against which this object need to be modified. So the same thing we need to pass into our interface as well. This id for modify method, it here. Fine, and we can save it. Yes, now here we can get the profile object from the database, and for that we can call this method. And here we can check if profile object is not equal to null. In that case we are going to update it. So we can set some values from the input object, set name, and here is our file.get name. Next thing we can set technology, and here we can get it from the input object. Here we can set the rank as well, get rank. And this modified object we need to pass to this save method so that it will get updated into the database. So what we have done, for this input id we have returned one object from the database, and that object we have set with new values from our input object, which is profile, and finally this modified object we are passing to save into the database. That's it. So this is about save. Similar way we need to modify our delete method. Now here for delete method we just need to pass the id instead of actual profile. So same we need to make the change in for delete method. id is enough to delete the object. Here what we are going to do, like here for this input id we are going to access the object as we have accessed it here, and we are going to check if it is not null, then we are going to call delete method on this. Fine, and here we should return something like, let's say if we have successfully deleted the object, like we need to return some response like profile is deleted successfully for profile id, and which is this input id we can pass and complete this, or else we can return null if in case it fails. Fine, so with this we are done with our service implementation. Now let us add the controller part. We can create our S controller with name profile controller, and here we can annotate it using race controller, and we need to auto-wire, and this is our service component, we need to auto-wire. Fine, now we can implement our get mapping first. Here we can pass enter mention our endpoint, which is the profiles in our case, and this is the return type, which should be response entity, and which is returning list of profile, and the method name should be get all profiles. There is no input param, and here we are going to call method, respective method on this profile service, get all profiles. Save it. Now here it should return the we need to wrap it inside response entity dot OK. We need to import. Okay. Fine. So we are done with our get mapping. Now similar way, this is about returning all the profiles from the database. Next thing, like we can create similar method for returning a single profile based on what ID we are going to pass. Now to get the profile, this should return the individual profile, not the list. And here the method name we can change, get profile by ID, and here we can pass the input with path variable, and here we can mention it's a long profile ID, and here we can call the respective method for getting the profile by ID, and here we need to pass this ID, profile ID. Fine. With this it will return a particular profile based on what profile ID we are passing. Fine. So this is about the another get method. So now let us add one post mapping so that it will allow us to add the profile into the database. For post mapping we do not need profile ID to pass, and here we can change the method name like create profile, and here we can add a request body, and this should be profile, and here we can call the respective method for creating the profile, and this is the input object which will get inserted into the database. That's it. We can add import for post mapping. Similar way we can add for patch mapping. So with patch mapping it will allow us to update the profile into the database. For patch mapping we need to pass the profile ID as well along with the profile object, and here we can call the respective method which is a modify profile, or whatever method we have mentioned. It's an modify profile. Now here we need to add one more input as an profile ID to it. Fine. We can add import for patch mapping. So this method is for modify profile. So we are passing the actual modified object against this ID. We are going to update it into the database. Hence we are passing these two inputs like the modified object and the profile ID, and we are calling the modify method on this service object. So this is about the update API or patch REST API. Now next we can add for delete mapping, and for delete mapping again we require, so this is the return type is a string, and the method name we can change it to delete profile, and we do not require the body to pass, only the profile ID is enough. And here we can call the respective method on service for deletion, and we need to pass only profile ID, and we can add import for delete mapping. With this we are done with our actual controller implementation part. Now one more annotation we need to add, which is like cross origin, and here we can mention max age somewhere 360. Why this cross origin is needed? Because we are going to call these APIs from the browser and from the client application, so it should not block the HTTP request. So for that we are using this cross origin. Fine. With this we are done with our all the CRUD operations, API, CRUD functionality implementation. Now next thing, like we need to test all these APIs into Postman. So let us open the Postman. So let us check what port we are using. It's a 8085. So same port we need to use. Now let us create one get method. Here is the get option you need to select, and let's say here 8085, which is a port in our case, and our endpoint is profiles. So if you want to cross check what in controller we have used this profiles endpoint everywhere. So same we need to enter it here. Now here we need to select this row. Under body we need to select this row and this JSON option. Fine. Once this is done, now next thing what we can do, we can simply click on send button. Before that we need to make sure if our application is running. So what we can do, we can close this application first and build it again, because we have added lot of code. Now we can build it and keep it running. So you can see the build is success. Now let us run it using run as Spring Boot application option. Yes, it is started successfully. Now let us check. Now let us test this API for a get which will return all the APIs from the database. Now right now it is showing the empty array, which is as expected because we do not have any record into the profile. If you cross check here, select star from table name, which is a profile in our case, and we can see it is just showing the columns. There is no data in the table. With that it is as expected. Now next thing, like we can add some profile, so that we can check with our post method. We need to select post, and here we need to pass the body part, and let me take one profile. Okay, so let me take one profile. Fine. Now and let us add. We can see, okay. So it is not set to profile is added, but sorry. Yes. Now this is not the state, city and state is not our properties. Rather it should be name, technology and rank, due to which these are setting as null. So let me take the exact data. Okay, instead of state we should mention it's a name, and this should be the technology, and this should be rank. Fine. Now let me first delete this entry from the database. Fine. Now let us add one entry. Fine. Now we can see the profile is added successfully into. into the, let us check into the database. Yes, we can see it is added successfully. Similar way, we can add few more records, like let's say, let us change it here so that this will be applicable to all. Instead of strict, we can replace it with name. Instead of city, we can replace it with technology. These are some column name mismatch, so we are correcting it, and this data we can use in our actual for adding the records. Fine, now it seems good. Now we can add the second record like this one. So you can see the record is added successfully. Now if we go back to the our get API and click on send button, now we have two records which we have added just. Fine. Now there is one more get API, like based on our what ID we are passing, it should return the particular record, not the entire array. Okay, so let us try this. Yes, it is showing the particular record based on what ID we are passing. Now next thing what we can do, we can check for our patch mapping, and here we need to enter the particular record which we want to modify it here, and for patch mapping we need to pass the actual URL along with the ID for which we are going to update. This is the third ID, profile ID, same ID for which we are going to modify this entry. Now instead of Kevin, here we can add something like let's say Vijay, and instead of .NET we can say it's an HTML5, and rank we can mention something like 77. Right now its rank is string, but if you want you can make it as an integer. Now let us check whether it is working. Yes, we can see it is updated. Now if you call the get method, and here we can see the same is updated it here. Similar way we can cross verify into the database, and we can see for the second record for the third profile the record is updated successfully. With this the patch mapping is working fine for updating the profile. Now the last thing we can check for delete mapping, and for delete mapping we can select the delete HTTP method. We need to pass the URL along with the ID along with the ID, and for this ID it will get the profile and delete it from the database. Now let us try for delete mapping, and it is showing the message as profile is deleted successfully for this profile ID. Fine. If you call the get method, now it should show only one record because second record we have deleted. Yes, and if we cross verify into the database, now it should show only one record. Yes, seems good. Delete is working fine. With this all the CRUD functionality we have tested in Postman, and which are working fine as expected. Now next thing like we can do, we can create our front-end application using reactjs. Fine. Now let me open the VS Code first. Now here we can create our reactjs application using option v at the latest, and here we can mention our actual backend application name, front-end application name, sorry, it's a profile -pip. It will create our application. We can select the option like React and next as in JavaScript. Now we can go to our profile web folder and we can install the dependency using command npm install. So you can see npm install we are done with. Now let us run our application using command npm run dev. Yes, we can see our application is running fine. Yes, we can see our application is running fine. Now with this we have created our react application, default react application. Now let us do one thing. What we can do, we can clear everything from this. We can clear the content from app.jsx so that we can make a fresh start. We can save it. Fine. We can remove everything from app.csx. Save it. And there is a index.html. We can remove this icon. And here for title we can mention it's a full stack using reactjs. Spring Boot and MariaDB. That's it. Now we can save it. Next thing, like we can create our actual main container and we can name it like it's an class name profile container, inside which first we can create our add and edit. First we can mention one header part and here we can add this header. Next we can mention our one more div in which this is for add and edit panel, and class name we can mention add panel, inside which we are going to add one more div which is for, we can say, add panel input. And here we have one label which is for name. We can mention name. And next thing, like we can add one input text. and here we can mention same like it's a name, id is name, and we can save it. Now we can see it has created one name and id. Now let us add some css part for this one. First of all, it's a profile container. Here we can mention some width, let's say 578 pixel, height, fit content, and margin left we can add something 30 pixel. Seems good. Next thing we can add for h3, it's a color, and we can mention the color. Seems good. Now for add panel we can add, and here again we can mention now here we can add border 1 pixel solid. We can add margin left for h3 as well, so that it will look good. Here we can mention some width. We have mentioned the width already. We have added the width. Now next thing like we can add for dot add panel input, and for input we can mention, so there is one more div inside div, so this is add panel, and we can say it should be add panel div. And for this input again we can add some class name, add panel input. Fine, seems good. Now here this is for add panel input, and for this we can mention some width. We can mention margin left, it's a 5 pixel. Next we can mention display as an inline block, so you can save it. So it should be, so this should be for not for input, rather it should be div. So what we are going to use, we are going to create 3 divs for each property, like we have name, technology, and rank, and for each div we are going to create one label and input. Fine, like this is the label and this is the input and this div. So this div is extra because we want to fit it into this actual width, these 3 fields and one button as well. That's why we have taken it. Now let us do one thing here. You can save it, and it should be here. We can add one line break. Say it's a border 1 pixel solid, border radius 5 pixel. Next we can mention some width, let's say 140 pixel. Height we can mention somewhere 25 pixel. We can save it. Now for this add panel we can mention some width, let's say it's 60 pixel, and this is again the pixel. Seems good. Now similar way we need to add two more divs, one for technology and here we can mention the technology. Fine. And we can add one more for rank. You can save it. Seems good. Now we can see here we have added this technology and rank. Now we need to add one more thing, like here we need to add two buttons, one for add, this is add, and one is for cancel button. And we can add some CSS part for these two buttons. We can add border 1 pixel solid, border radius is 5 pixel. Next we can add font size somewhere 11 pixel, line height 15 pixel, and we can mention margin left 5 pixel. Seems good. This is about add. Similar way we can add for cancel button as well. Yes, seems good. Now we need to add some color for these two. Can add some background color, let's say it's a green. Now let us add some color, seems good. Similar color we can add for cancel button. Fine. So with this we are done with our add and edit panel. Now let us add the panel color as well. Can make it some light color. Seems good. Now let us add our search box, one search box for search filter functionality. So this is our add panel div events. Now here we can add one input search, and we can say input search as a name, ID, and here we can mention class name as a search input, and here we can add placeholder and we can search profile here. That's it. Here we can mention some this search input attribute CSS part. We can add some margin top part, let's say 35 pixel. Border and border radius we can add. Border and border radius we have added. Now next thing, we can add some height, let's say 25 pixel, width somewhere to 1-2 pixel, and we can save it. Now we need to add some margin left, which is in our case it's a 30 pixel. Everywhere we have added the same. Seems good. Now here we can add some background color, and let us add this. Fine. Now this is about search input box. Now let us add the table part. So for table part, this is the end of our actual container div. Now here before this ends, we can add one table, and we can name our class name. It's a table. We can say it's a table. Fine. And inside table we have first is a t head, and for header, and for each header we have row inside which we can render our header part. And for headers we can say we have what all headers, like it's a profile ID, and we can add 3 more headers. First is profile ID, next is name, next is technology, and next is rank. Fine, it seems good, it is showing it here. Now next thing what we can do, this is about head. Similar way we need to add t body part, in which we have tr. Inside tr we are going to render the data part using td. That's it. Okay, so this is about this is the common structure, table structure we used to follow to render the table, columns and data. But right now we are going to use the React table library, and with that we are going to render the column data and column and data. So let us add that dependency first. So we can use npm install, and here we have the dependency of React table. And next we need to add the axios module as well, so that we can give a call to our backend REST APIs. So these two dependencies required. Fine, we can cross check into package.js. Yes, we can see React table and axios is added as expected. Now let us run our application once again. Now here we need to use this React table in our case. Like here we can use import, and here we can say use table. It's a use table, it's a hook we are going to use from, can say it's a React table library. Next thing we are going to use import star as a React from React. Now this is the use table hook we are going to use from this React table library. Now let us use this. At here first we need to define some constant for columns. next columns, and here we use react dot use memo here, and we are going to use these columns, and for columns we need to mention some header structures, and this is the header, and for header we can mention the name of the header, which is profile ID first, and next is the accessor, and for accessor we can mention what is the accessor for this. So this is for the header for our first column, which is a profile ID, and this is the header name which is going to display on the UI, and this is accessor through which we are going to access this field. Okay, so this is the simple difference in between header and accessor. Header is going to be displayed on the screen, and this using this accessor we are going to access that. So this is about the first header. So let us add 3 more headers or columns. Next is name, and here we mention name. Next is technology, and next is rank. Fine, we have added 4 headers, and you can see these are 4 headers. Now next thing what we can do, we need to mention one constant for data as well, and this data is again react dot use memo, and here we can mention the data. First of all, we need to mention one constant for storing our profile data, which is like profiles, and this is the function for setting the profile, and we can mention its use state, initialize it with array. Fine, now here we can mention, now our profile related data will get stored into the profiles, and these profiles we are going to set it for the data, and that's it. So the data which is storing the profiles. Now next thing what we can do, we can define one constant for table, and here we are going to use table hook, inside which we are going to use like what are things we are going to use inside this, like the functions which we are going to use, like okay, so here we can simply, this is the use table, and inside this we need to pass the columns, next data, and this data will store the profiles. That's it. So this is about table, and instead of using the table we can use the particular functions which we are going to use, like let's say we are going to use table props, get table props, get table body props, we are going to use rows, and we are going to use prepared row, and apart from this we are going to use header groups as well. That's it, and we can keep adding as we need some other functions as well. Fine, so this is about, we have declared what all functions we are going to use in this. Now let us use this into our actual table part. Now here for the table we are going to use this get table properties function. Next thing, like here need to add this. Okay, fine. Next thing, like here for each header groups we are going to map on for each header group so this should be fine. Okay, so for each header group we are going to render this tr part, and for each tr part, like we say, we can call the respective function get header props, and we can mention some key as an hg.id. Now here we can mention this hd dot headers, and we can map on this, and for each column we are going to render the header part. And for rendering the header part, so we can remove this first, and we can add the header part at here, and here again we can add, we can call the property for each column, and here we can say so this is the column, right? So before we call the function at here, so we need to render on this first we need to call the, like for each column dot headers. Okay, so this is the column part. Now for each column we need to render. Okay, so we can call the function which is column dot get header props, and here we can add one key as column dot id. That's it. This is about this. Now here okay, here we need to render the actual column. We can say render, we can call the render method. Oh, sorry, here is our, let us check, here is, this is the close bracket, and sorry, this is the extra thing which was added. Now here, in order to render our column, we can call column dot render method, and what we are going to render, it's a header. That's it, and we can close this. Okay, so what we have done it here, So for the tables we have this we are calling this get table properties, and for each header, this is the for each header group we are mapping on the header groups, and here for each header we are calling this tr header group properties, and for header group properties for each column we are entering the header, and this is the header we are entering, and for this, like, these are the headers which will get rendered, like let's say here is the profile name, technology, and rank. So these headers it should get rendered. Now let us check what is happening at here. Let me cross check it once. So basically this header property groups is repeated. Actually for the row level it should be header group props, we need to call it, and on column level for rendering the header we need to call get header props function. Fine. Now you can see it is showing the header part, which is looks which seems good. Now we can render the body part as well, which is the t body, and for rendering the t body we are going to call the function which is get table body props, and here for rendering the body part. So for each rows we are mapping on each rows, and here it is returning in the row, and for each row we are calling this get row properties, and here we are on row for each cell we are calling the map on cells, and for each cell we are going to render the data part, and here again we are going to add call the function like cell dot get cell properties. This is the function we need to call on cell, and here is our key we need to mention, which is cell.id. That's it. Here we need to render the actual cell, and to render the cell we can call cell.render, and here we can mention it's a cell. That's it. Now let us check. We have saved it now. Now actually here these are the rows, and here before we return row we need to call the prepare row, and we need to pass this row. fine. Now we can save it. Now it is not showing any data as of now because we have not given call to our backend get APIs, so we need to do that. So first we need to write one function like constant get all profiles, and here here we can mention this. First we need to import our axios at here. Let's say axios from axios, and here we can call axios.get method, and here we can mention our URL which is http localhost and port number which is 8085, and the endpoint name is the profiles, and here we can call then a response callback function, and here we can say console.log res.data, and we can return res.data. Res.json. Okay, so restore data. Instead of returning, we need to set profiles, and for set profiles we are going to set a response.data. That's it. Yes. Now let us check. Now we have mentioned this get all profiles, but we have not called this method as of now, so we need to use call the use effect, inside which we can give call to this method get all profiles, and we can initialize it with some dependency array. Fine. Now let us check what will happen. Now we can see it is showing one record. With this we have given this get all profile call from use effect, and from use effect it is calling the get all profiles method, and get all profiles is returning all the records which are present in our database, and we can see we have only one record with name Shivaji. Yes, we can see it is showing as expected. Now let us add some CSS part for table so that it should look good. So we have added for table. Similar way we can add for header. So we can add some background color, let's say blue. We can add some light color. Yeah, seems good. Fine. Similar way we can add for TD. Seems good. Now let us add some. So let us add few more entries into the table so that it will look good. Not it here. Now let us check. Yes, it's good. Border width somewhere is redundant. We need to remove that. Let us check where it is. Border for th, table and td. Fine. So let us check it here. is border collapse or collapse. Height, fit content, align, center, th. Okay, so let us add one more thing, like here nth child a1, and here we can add some color for a1, and here we can add background color as a something seems good. Fine, here it is something, the line is redundant, and here and check where exactly it is. Border, this is for add panel. Fine. One more thing, we can add margin left as in 30 pixels so that it will look good for the table. Seems good. If we remove this, how it will look. For now we can remove this border. Okay, here it is showing some redundant. Later we will check later on why it is showing like that. Fine, so it seems good. Now let us add one more thing. Is like here we can add, we can check for this add button. So we will implement some post mapping here by adding some numbers. Okay, so actually we have added so let us add the add API, post mapping API here. So before do that, what we need to do here, once we click on this once we enter something at here, so that part we need to capture these variables into some object. So for that we can use, like we have constant, and here it's in profile data, and here we can set profile data, and here is our constant, and we can say it's a use state, and here we can mention some name as a blank. And next thing we have technology, which is again a blank, and next thing we have our rank, which is again blank. Fine, we complete this, we can save it. Now this is about profile data. Now here once we enter something into the text, it should here we can say for value, it should set value as an profile data dot name for name. Similar way for technology we can use it's a technology, and for rank we can use it's a rank. Fine, we can save it. Seems good. Now next thing, like whenever we enter something at here and change the text, that time it should call some event like On change event we need to mention, and here we can say handle change functionality we need to call, and on click of and the function here we can mention it's a handle change, and for handle change we need to set profile data on a handle change, and here we can mention profile data, and inside this we can say e dot target dot name, and we can mention e dot target value. That's it. You can save it. Okay, fine. Whenever we enter it something it here, so now this handle change we have added for this name field. A similar way we need to add it for this name field, technology field, as well as for this rank field. Fine. Now let us check. Fine. So whenever we change something, so that changed event will capture the changed data and save into the respective field. So this is about the functions which we have handled using this handle change. Now let us do one thing. Whenever we click on add button, it should call some function, and which is like post mapping. Here this is our add button, and here we can say it's an on click function, and here we can say handle submit we can call, and for handle submit we can mention this function it here, like let's say constant handle submit, and here we can call this function like it's a first we can call prevent default, and here we can mention like we can call axios dot post method, and here we can pass this URL. It's a profiles. Okay, and here we need to pass the profile data which we want to save into the database. We can call then, and here is our response and callback, and here we can call console.log, and here we can mention it's a res.data. That's it. So let us check with this one. Now let us add one more entry, like let's say Sandeep, and technology it's an database, and here rank we can add 111. You can click on add button. Now we can see Sandeep is getting added, but only when we refresh that. So let us do one thing, like we should not refresh it. So here once we after post we can call this so we can mention one function as an clear all, and inside which we can call this our get profiles method, and we can call this clear all functionality here, which will give call to our get APIs. Now whenever we add a new record into table, that time we do not need to refresh. Let us check. So let us say it's a for name is Neha, technology let's say it's a .NET, and rank it's a 78. We can add it. Now we can see it is getting added without even refreshing the page. Fine, seems good. Our post is working fine. Now let us add the updation part to update the data. So in order to update the data, first we need to add the action buttons like edit and delete. So we can add that action buttons now. So here, in order to add action buttons, we need to enter, and here we can say cell. This is the prof, and for prof we are going to return the button, and this is for edit, and here we can give class name as an edit btn, and fine, let's save it. Okay, so first we need to mention the header, and which is edit. We need to mention the accessor as well, which is again edit, and after that we need to add the cell part. So check, yes, we can see cell is getting added for this edit. Now similar way we can add one more cell which is for delete, and here is our delete. Fine, and this should seems good. It is showing the edit and delete button. Now what we can do here, we can for this button we can add some CSS so that it should look good. Now font size 10 pixel, and line height we can add pixel. Let us check. Now it seems good. Now let us add similar way. Now here again, like, we can add some background color. For edit button we are going to add green. We can make it light green, we can use, seems good. Similar way we can add it for delete button, and for delete button we can add some width for delete and edit. Let's say 50 pixels somewhere. Same we can add for delete button as well. You can see it seems good. Now here background color for delete button should be something related to the red because it's a delete button, and we can add seems good. This is about delete and edit button. Now whenever we click on edit button, the value of this row should get populated at this input boxes. We can write the code for that one. So here we need to mention some on click button, on click function, and here we can say handle. We can say handle edit, and here we can mention the function constant handle edit. and we can set profile data. And for handle delete we need to pass this actual object, like this is our profile object. Now here this is our handle edit, and we need to pass some object to the handle edit. Edit, we can pass the function name, like let's say it's a cell. So for props we can call cell, and on cell we can call rows, and on row we can call original. Fine, seems good. Now let us check what will happen. Now this is our profile. What object we are passing it here? This is the row for profile, and the same we are accessing it here. Now we need to set it to the profile data so that it will get set to these input fields. Now let us show. Fine, seems good. Now let us check what will happen. Now whenever I will click on this one, it should be handle edit. So on click function, this is the handle edit. You can save it first and check. Set profile data. Props.cell.row.original, which seems good. It should come on click button, and here is our set profile data. So let us rebuild it again. Let me call it into the browser and check what is happening. Network props is not defined. Okay, so props is not defined. Now let us check it. Props, here is our edit and cell props. Okay, here it should be props. Here is a prop and here is a props. So actually it should be props. Here spelling mistake and seems good. Now let us check what will happen. Now once we click, yes, we can see it is getting updated as expected. Seems good. Now next thing, like we can update it using here. We can check now where we are calling the submit button, at the same place we need to call our update button, update logic. Here we can check if our, let's say, profile data dot name is not, means profile id is there, profile id is there, in that case it should go for updation. Let's say, and here we can call the patch method for updation, and here again, like, we need to pass our profile data. This is, we need to pass this profile data dot profile id, and this is the profile data we need to pass along with the profile id, which will get modified. Seems good. Now let us check. If profile id is there, then go for updation, and if the profile id is not there, that means it should go to else part, which is this. If profile id is not there, that means we need to go for addition. That's it. Now here we can check. Now we can take one record. Instead of Neha, we can say it's we can update it to Nita, and here instead of .NET we can use Java, and we can make it 777. Here we can check it. Now again, okay, so we need to check why it is not coming as such. Now for handle submit, here if profile or data dot profile id is there, then okay, so here profile id, it should be profile id, I should be capital. Seems good. Now let us check. Instead of Neha, we can add Nita, and this is for Java, and we can make rank is 777. Now we can see after we refresh, it is getting changed. So we can make some changes so that we do not need to refresh it. So here all. Once we we need to clear this, like for clear all we can add set profile data, and here we can clear everything for the profile data because we are going to clear it. Now let us again make this change. Let's say instead of here we can change it to Manoj, and here is our .NET. Make it 7.8. Yes, it is getting reflected, but only after we refresh. Okay, fine. So at least like edit is working fine. So only it is getting changed once we refresh it. So let us check it. So let us check it Sandeep, and instead of Sandeep we can call Sam, and edit. Sam is getting updated. Yes. So this is the add, and this is the else part. To add we are calling this clear all. Set profile data, get all profiles we are calling. That's it. Fine. So get all profiles. Fine. So here actually we need to call async await. So it was which was missing async, and here we need to use await. Same for it here. Fine. Now let us check. Let's say it's Sam. Instead of Sam we can change it to Sandeep and add it. Yes, we can see now it is changing as expected. Seems good. So we do not need to refresh it. Async await was missing, due to which it was not showing. Fine. So update is working fine. Now next thing what we can do, we can go for delete. So for delete again, like we need to do the similar way. This is the on click function we need to call for delete, and it here this is the handle delete can call, and same function we need to mention it here, like we can use the similar function like patch, and here we can pass this profile object it here, and this is the close of this one. This is not needed. and here we need to close this. Fine. Now here what we can do, instead of patch method we are going to call delete method, and for delete method we just need to pass the id, which is enough. And here like we need to add one constant for is confirmed, and here we can say it's a window dot confirm, and here we can mention are you sure you want to delete. Fine. If is confirmed, then go for deletion. We can cut this and add it here. Seems good. Fine. Now let us check. One more thing we can add it here, so let us check it for deletion first. We can clear it and let us delete this last record. Here it is showing the pop-up confirmation box, and once we click on that, okay, fine. So something is missing it here, it's not profile data, it should be profile object which we need to use, and the id we can pass. Now let us check one more time. Fine. Click on OK to confirm. Now let us here it is profile is deleted successfully. If we refresh, yes, we can see last record is deleted successfully. So it is getting deleted only after we refresh it. So in order to we can use it here something like window dot location dot reload function we can call. So we do not need to refresh the page of post deletion. So let us try it once again. Let's say if you want to delete this last record. Now yes, we can see without even refreshing it is getting deleted. Fine, seems good. Now it is working as expected for delete as well. With this we are done with all the CRUD operations. Now let us add the 4 functionality implementation like searching, sorting, and pagination part. Now let us first implement our search filter. Here we can use global filter. We can use this hook. So here is our and the same hook we need to add it here. Now this is the hook we are going to use. 8-hour use table, and we can set it set a global filter. We can mention one constant as an constant, like here is a global filter. It's on state, and here we can add this state as well. Fine, we can save it. It should be const. So it's spelling mistake, constant. Yes, fine, seems good. Now one more thing, like here this is our input box where it is. So this is search input. Here we need to add some function like onchange. we need to call set to global filter, and here we can pass e dot target dot value. That's it. E dot target dot value. So here what we have done, like first of all we are using this use filter, use global filter hook, and we are adding so that it will apply the search filter. This is the set global filter method, and this is the global filter variable we are going to use. And here we are setting the global filter whenever we change the text state here. And one more thing, we need to pass the value as in like our global filter. Let's say it's a global filter, or it's an blank. Fine, we can save it. Seems good. Now what we can do, let us search it for, let's say, yes, it is working fine for profile id 2, and for Java seems good, and again the rank which is 300 seems good. So filter is working fine as expected. Now next thing what we can do, we can implement our sorting functionality as well. To implement the sorting functionality, we need to use the hook again, like use sort by, and same we can use it here, added it here, use sort by. And here where we render the column, we need to do one thing. This is the technology, and here rendering the column. So this props, so we need to call one method on this props, like let's say first we can call column dot get sort by toggle props. So this is the function we need to call so that the sorting will get applicable to our table. Now let us check what will happen. So we can see sorting is applicable to our table columns data. Now we need to add some arrow part at here. So what we can do, after this we can add one arrow, like let's say we can say if it is column dot is sorted, then if it's a column dot is sorted, then we can go, we need to show the some span, and inside span we can say if column dot is sorted, it's a DSC. If it is a DSC, then show the up arrow or else show the down arrow. So for showing the up arrow, there is one option like Windows colon we can use, and here is our up arrow, and similar for down arrow we can use Windows colon option and down arrow. That's it, we can save it. If you want to add some arrows like icons, you can take it from that SVG icon arrows as well, and icons, and use that depending on you, it's up to you. Now let us check if it is reflecting in our. Now we can see the arrow is reflecting for the table columns as well for ascending and descending order. Seems good now. So sorting is working fine. Next thing, last thing, we are going to implement the pagination part. To implement the pagination part, we are going to use hook like use pagination, and the same we can use it here. Like this is our pagination part. Next thing, like here for pagination we should use like page instead of rows, and the same we need to use it here. We should iterate on page. For pagination we need to show some buttons once after our table completes. Like here we can add one div wherein we are going to add some buttons. Like first is the first button. There are 4 buttons we are going to add. So for each button, class name like the page button we can say, and same we can repeat for. There are first button, this is the previous button, this is the next button, and this is the last button. Fine. And this div name we can give page div, we can say it's a pagination div. Fine, seems good. Now next thing, we are going to add some span. Like herein we are going to show some, let's say, page index of page count we are going to show. Now we need to add this page index and page count at here. Page index, page count, and so page index we can add it here. Seems good. Now let us check. We can see here 4 buttons are appearing. Now here we are on the first page and it is showing the 0 as an index, so we can add it as an page index plus 1, so that it will show the first of count. Now it is showing first of first. Fine, seems good. Now in order to so let us do one thing. It here we can add some page div and page button CSS. Now here we can add some margin left 30 pixels, and for tables we are going to add page. For buttons, this is the page button class we are going to add. We can add margin top, seems good. Now here margin left we can add 5 pixels, seems good. Now next thing, what we can do here, we can add some colors as well. Background color, let's say we can add some background color, let's say blue, or we can add some other background colors. Seems good. Now let us add, whenever we click on next button, it should show the next page. That functionality we need to add. So here is our, so first of all, whenever we are on the first page, we should disable, for disabling functionality we can add it later on, but whenever we click on next button, it should show the next page, and whenever we click on previous page, previous button, it should show previous page. Now this we need to add next and previous page to our hook. This is our table, and next page, and this is the previous page. Fine. Now here we have less data. We have only 4-5 records. Let me add few more records so that we can see our pagination is working. So let me take few more records. Fine. Yes, so we have added something 4-5 records. Now total records, we can see we have 14 records. We can simply write one more record so that we will have 15 records. Now we can take this and add it. Yes, seems good. Okay, fine. So now whenever we do one thing like here, whenever we click on next page, so initial per page it should show something like, now it is showing the 10 records per page. Now what if we want to show, set some few records per page? By default it is showing 10 records per page, but if you want to mention initial state, and here we can say page size, we can mention it's let's say 3 records per page, and this is the initial state. Can mention, save it. Seems good. Now it is showing 3 records per page. Now if we click on next button, it is showing next 3 records. Likewise it is showing next 3 records, and this is the last record, which is the suman, which we have added, which was not showing earlier. Now it is showing due to the pagination part. Similar way, whenever we click on previous button, it is showing the previous pages. Okay, fine. So previous and next button is working fine. Similar way, so we can do one thing, like whenever we click on the last button, it should take us to the last page. So that part we can implement. So here we can say on click, we can say go to page, and here we can say page count. It should be page count -1, so that it will go to the last button. Last, sorry, here. So this is the go to page, and it should page count -1, so that it will go to the last page. Similar way we can add it for the first page, and for first page it should go to page count as in 0. Now this go to page we need to add it here in our table after this previous page. This is the go to page. Fine, seems good. Now whenever we click on last button it is taking us to the last page, and whenever we click on first button it is taking us to the first page. Seems good. This is working fine. Next thing what we can do, we can disable the page whenever we click on whenever we are on the first page. It should disable the first and last button, and here we can say can previous page. If there is no previous page it should disable the first and first and previous button. Similar way, when there is no next page it should disable the next and last button. Seems good. Now we can add it previous page and can next page at here, so that it will get applicable. And this is the can next page. Seems good. Now we can save it. Fine. Now we can see as we are on the first page, the first and previous button is disabled. So whenever we click on next button it will take us to the next page, and finally once we reach on the last page the next and last button is getting disabled. Similar way, whenever we click on first button it will take us to the first page, and as there is no previous page to show it, first and previous button is getting disabled. So with this, we are done with all our implementation part, and we have implemented the pagination as well as searching sorting functionality, and we have implemented everything what we have discussed and promised before we start this video. So I will request you to please like and subscribe this video, and I will again request you to watch my other full stack videos which I have implemented and created with various combinations. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you must have enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching this.